So we'll start. By the way, just I think it's a small announcement. So you all anyway know that your assignments will be due, right, after I finish this chapter. So I'll be finishing this chapter by tomorrow. And so your assignment will be due on Monday, okay, the coming Monday. And next week, that is Friday of next week, you are going to have your quiz. All right. So with that, I mean, other details about quiz assignment and everything we can discuss later, like maybe on Friday or something during the interaction session. But right now, okay, let's begin. All right. So in the last class, what did we learn? Let me just, recap what we learned in the last class, right? So in the last class, we looked at operators, right? The functions of operators. So remember any linear function, right? Like f of a can be expressed in terms of the Taylor expansion of that. So, right? Yeah. I mean this, yeah. So this is an exponential function. So the Taylor expansion of an exponential function, you know how it is written as, right? It is written as 1 plus a plus a square by 2 factorial and so on. So these were some of the properties related to function of an operator. And if A is Hermitian, if the operator itself is Hermitian, in general, the function of the operator is not necessarily Hermitian. Okay. So, and you know what Hermitian means, so you can always check whether something is Hermitian or not. Right. Then we looked at unitary and inverse operators, and just from the previous semester, you know what unitary and inverse matrices are. So the same funda applies here as well, right? It's the same understanding. So you, for a unitary operator, you have U inverse is equal to U dagger. And then we saw the eigenvalue, eigenvector of an operator. Again, the same, exact same thing applies here, just like you learned in the previous semester. Okay. So if this is going to be a function, so if the operator applies on a function, you're going to get a this eigenvalue, right? An eigenvalue, and then this is the eigenvector. Okay. So if given an operator, you can always find out the eigenvalues and eigenvectors. And for a Hermitian operator, you should remember that eigenvalues are real. Okay, this is an important theorem. Eigenvalues are real for Hermitian operators, and all the eigenvectors corresponding to different eigenvalues are orthogonal. Okay, so eigenvectors are orthogonal and eigenvalues are real. This you have to remember. This is for a Hermitian operator. Okay, and you can go through the other stuff. All right. All right. So I think we stopped at properties of unitary transformations. All right. So today we are going to look some more unitary transformations and some more representation of matrices in Kets, Bras, and operators. Okay. So let's look at that. So we are starting with matrix representation of Kets, Bras, and operators. So this, I think I've already told you multiple times. So Ket, you should always think of it as a row vector, sorry, column vector, meaning it has one column and several rows. And bra, you should always think of it as a row vector. Okay, so it has one row and several columns. Okay, and operator is obviously a square matrix. Okay, so this is something that you know. So let's look at it. So now, if phi n, right, if this is the basis of a wave function, if this is the basis set of a wave function in the Hilbert space, then all the state vectors are orthonormal. Okay, so if for a wave function, if these phi n's are the basis set, then all the state vectors are orthonormal. So what do you mean by orthonormal? It means that the scalar product of any two vectors will be equal to delta nm, and delta nm is a Kronecker delta. Okay, so Kronecker delta means it takes the value 1 when n is equal to m, and it takes the value 0 when n is not equal to m. Okay, so you can imagine that if n and m, so basically if you take the scalar product with itself, then you will get 1. if you take scalar product with anything else, you're going to get 0. And this is true for orthogonal eigenvectors, right? Or orthogonal state vectors. So this is the same concept here. Okay. Now suppose this is now since the phi n's, these are the complete basis set. So for anything to be a complete basis set, it has to follow this relation that this summation of this operator, right? This is an operator, right? So summation of this should give you I. Okay. So if this is giving you I, then that is the unit operator, right? The identity operator, you can say. If it is giving you I, then we say that this basis set is complete, meaning all the phi n's, when you add up together for all the n's, for all the possible n's, when you add up this quantity, you should get I, meaning the identity matrix you should get, where all the diagonal elements are 1 and the off diagonal elements are 0. Okay. And we already know that if you apply identity operator on a state vector, then what happens? Then nothing changes, right? Because it's like multiplying something with 1. So nothing changes. Okay. So in principle, you can multiply this operator, right? This whole thing with phi n, and still you will get the same thing, right? So that's what we will do now. Okay. So so if phi n is orthonormal, okay, assume that it is orthonormal, then let phi n is equal to a n into chi n. Okay, let us assume that this is some wave vector phi n, and it is given by a n into another vector chi n. Okay, so if phi n is orthonormal, then we know that the scalar product of the two phi n with itself is going to give you 1. Okay, so we can then just do this here. You can write a n chi n, and instead of the bra phi n, you will have a n star chi n, and instead of the ket phi n, you will have a n into phi n. Okay, so this is going to give you 1, and so a n square is going to give you 1. So the condition for orthonormality would be that the coefficient, the square of the coefficient should give you 1. Okay, and if it is scalar product with two different state vectors, it will give you 0. Okay. So now let's represent the vector psi within the context of the basis phi n. Okay, so we have a state vector psi. Okay, we have a vector psi, and now we will try to represent it in terms of another set of bases. Okay, in terms of the basis phi n. Okay, so what we can do is we can just multiply. So psi is nothing but I into psi, because when you multiply the unit operator with psi, nothing changes. So you can write this as I into psi. Okay, but we know what I is. So I in terms of the basis set would be this, right, which is sigma n equal to 1 to infinity. That is, this is summation from n going from 1 to infinity for ket phi n multiplied with bra phi n. Okay, so this thing gives you a square matrix, right? And now you're and then you're summing this whole thing up, and then you're getting psi. Okay, so now you can, okay, so from here you're going to get this finally, but we have to see how we are getting it. So basically what you're doing is you have the state vector psi, and you're now writing it in terms of the basis set you want to do here. Okay, so this is the way of getting that. Okay, so let's see. So psi can be represented as, in terms of the basis phi n. So basically we have this column vector. Okay, so the state vector psi can be represented as this column vector. So we have phi 1 psi, phi 2 psi, phi 3 psi, and so on, all these scalar products. Okay, and this is going to give us a1, a2, a3, etc. up to an. Okay, and the bra psi will then be obviously the row vector. If this is the column vector for psi, then the bra psi would become the row, will give you the row vector. Okay, which is a1 star, a2 star, a3 star, and that is coming from this kind of a scalar product. Okay, so let's say phi itself is phi 1 phi, the scalar product for these are the basis set phi 1, phi 2, phi n, etc. and these are your corresponding coefficients. Okay, so psi phi would give you what? It would give you this row vector multiplied with the column vector. Okay, so if you do that, what are you going to get? Okay, you're going to get one number basically. Okay, because what? How will you do the matrix multiplication? You're going to do a1 star into b1 plus a2 star into b2 plus a3 star into b3 and so on up to an star into bn and so on. Okay, so this is what you're going to get. So ultimately you're going to get one number, and that can be written as n equal to 1 to infinity an star bn. Okay, all right. So Bn is nothing but the scalar product phi and phi. An is nothing but scalar product phi n into psi. And An star would be the opposite of that, scalar product of psi with psi n. Okay. So you always have to think of kets as column vector and bra as the row vector. So I hope, right, this is clear. So whenever you see a scalar product, first of all, scalar product always gives you some number. Okay, it doesn't give you an operator, because why do you get that? Because you're multiplying a row vector with a column vector. Okay, but a vector like this, where is it? A vector like this, right, or a matrix multiplication like this, right? What will it give you? You are here multiplying the column vector with a row vector. Okay, and when you multiply column vector with a row vector, you are going to get a square matrix. Okay, because here the number of right, the columns and row have the same dimensions. Okay, so you're going to get a square matrix, and that becomes an operator. Okay, but in terms of the scalar product, when you take any scalar product, you get a particular number. So it is not an operator. It just becomes a number. Okay, so this is something you need to remember, or when you do problems, you will understand more. So let us look at a problem. Okay. All right. So consider the ket psi, right? So this is your ket, and this is your this is ket psi, and this is the ket phi. Okay. So these are two different vectors. Okay. So psi is given by this column vector 5i2 minus I, and phi is given by this other column vector, which is 3 minus 9. Okay, so what they're asking they want us to find psi star. Okay, so they want us to find the ket star, or the complex conjugate of the ket. Okay, so complex conjugate of the ket would be just replacing all the right, the complex numbers with the opposite sign. So here we have 5i, so we will get minus 5i for psi star. We'll get 2 remains 2, and I becomes plus I. So that is what we have, right? Psi star is minus 5i, 2, and I. Okay. Then they want us to find the bra psi. Bra psi is just the row, the transpose of this. Okay, transpose of the complex conjugate of the ket gives you the bra. So this is what you get. So you just take a transpose, meaning row becomes column, column becomes row, and so you'll get minus 5i, 2i. So this is your bra psi. Okay. Then they want us to check if psi is normalized. Okay, and if not, we need to normalize it. Okay, so how will you check whether psi is normalized? You have to take the scalar product. Okay, so what is the scalar product of psi? Right, you have to take this scalar product psi. Okay, so bra psi multiplied with the ket psi. Okay, so that is simple. You just do the matrix multiplication. So this is you're multiplying the row with the column, the row vector with the column vector. You are going to get 30. Okay, so you can just do this multiplication, work it out for yourself when you read it again. So this will give you 30. Okay, so you can see that the scalar product of the vector with itself is giving you some number that is greater than 1. Okay, or that is not equal to 1. So it means that the vector psi is not normalized. Okay, if it gives you 1, only then we say that it is normalized. Since it does not give you 1, we cannot say it is normalized. Okay, it is not normalized actually. So how will you find the normalization factor? So normalization factor is nothing but 1 by root of the scalar product of psi with itself, or you can say norm of psi. So this is equal to 1 by root 30. Okay, so 1 by root 30 is your normalize or the normalization factor. So when you write your psi ket, what you will do, your psi is written. So when you write, if you want to normalize it, you will write 1 by root 30 into this column vector. That is your normalized wave function. Okay. Next, they're asking are psi and phi orthogonal. Okay, so again, how will you find that? You have to take the scalar product of psi with phi. So essentially, you have to multiply the two. Okay. So if you multiply the two, first of all, you have to multiply the bra psi with the ket phi. Okay, so this is your matrix multiplication. If you do this matrix multiplication, you see that it is 9 plus I. So obviously it is not equal to 0, and so you can say that psi and phi are not orthogonal. Okay, all right. So this is the kind of problems that you're going to get. So you need to really understand how to take scalar products, how to check if something is orthogonal or not, how to check if something is normalized or not, right? These are very simple calculations, but you need to understand this. Okay. Next is matrix representation of operators. Okay, so I already told you that if phi n represents a complete basis, then this summation of this operator, right? Summation of this operator is going to give you I. Okay, so if this is going to give you I, then any operator A, if you multiply it with I on both the sides, it is the same thing, right? It's like multiplying it with 1. So what you can do is you can actually do that. Okay, you can actually multiply A, operator A with I on both sides. Okay, so that is what we are doing here. We multiply with I and with I here. Okay, and then what you see. So this is I, A, and this is I. So now so now you take all the summations to one side. Okay, so take it on to the left. So you have sigma n equal to 1 to infinity, sigma n equal to 1 to infinity. Then you are left with phi n, which is this phi n. Then you are left with the expectation value of A, or you can say A with phi n and A operator acting on phi n, and that multiplied with phi n, A phi n, and then you have this term, which is bra phi n. Okay, now we know that this term, right, this term has to be a number, right, because all the brackets are closed and everything. So this term is not an operator now, this becomes a number. Okay, so what is this number? Let's call it A N M, because it is phi n and phi n and through the operator A. So let's call it A N M. So it's some scalar number. Okay. So you can take it outside, or you can take it over here. Okay, on to the extreme left. So you're going to get A N N phi n phi n. Okay. So any matrix, right, or any operator A. Okay. So this is the of operator in terms of some basis set. Okay, suppose you're given a basis set and you're given an operator, and they say, okay, now convert this operator to another representation which is in terms of a basis set. Then this is how you're going to do it. Okay, so this A operator, right, now becomes A N M summation over N and M, A N M ket phi n multiplied with bra phi n. Okay, so this becomes your operator, and this is simply done very easily. It is done by using the identity or the unit operator. Okay, so you multiply A with the unit operator on both sides, and this is what you get. Okay, remember, see, one easy thing to remember is that whenever the angular brackets are closed fully, then you always get some scalar value. Okay, some number is what you're going to get. Okay, otherwise it will be an operator or a vector. All right. So this is phi m. So obviously, right, phi m is a m cross 1 matrix, and right, because this is a column vector and this is a row vector. All right. Okay, so if this product, right, this operator or expectation value, this is not called, we won't call this expectation value, but let's call it this component of A, right, the A and M component, right? So if A and M is to exist, then A and phi M matrix multiplication should exist, right? So this can only exist if you are able to multiply the operator A with the ket phi M. Otherwise, it won't exist. And for that to happen, M and M, right, these two should be equal, right? The column, number of columns in A and the number of rows in phi M, they should be equal. Okay, so in that case, you can only then you can do this matrix multiplication. So this has to be equal. Okay, now, but you can also do it the other way. You can multiply the bra phi n with the operator A. In that case, what you need to have, this n and this n needs to be same. Okay, so A obviously needs to be a matrix of order n cross m. If you want to do this, if you want to get this A and m, it has to be a matrix of order n cross m. Only then you can do this kind of a multiplication. Okay. And because phi n and phi m are vectors from the same basis set, obviously A has to be a square matrix. Okay. So A will have to be a square matrix. Only then you can do this kind of an operation. Alright, so I think now this has been grilled into you that ket has to be a column vector, bra has to be a row vector, and operator has to be a square matrix. This is in terms of a matrix representation. Okay, so obviously this is a square matrix. So you are essentially doing column vector multiplied with row vector, and what you'll get? You'll get A1 into A1 star. Then the second term will be A1 into A2 star, third term will be A1 into A3 star, and so on. And you can do the full matrix multiplication. You will get a square matrix, which is the operator. Okay. All right. So now we've learned about the operator and how if you have a complete basis set, you can write down the identity or the unit operator. So let's look at the trace of an operator. So trace of an operator is very simple. Okay, it is given by this expectation value of A and sum it up over all n. Okay. So you get A and n and sum up over all n. So what does this mean? If you have the A matrix, right? If you have this A matrix, then it is just the trace, the addition of all the diagonal terms. So you add up all the diagonal terms of this matrix, right? And you will get A11, A22, A33, etc. Okay. So if you add up all this, that is called the trace. So trace is nothing but adding up all the diagonal terms of the matrix. That is how you will get the trace of the operator. Okay. So these are some of the properties of the trace. Trace of A dagger is equal to trace of A whole complex conjugate. Okay. And trace of alpha A plus beta B plus gamma C and so on is nothing but alpha into trace of A plus beta into trace of B plus gamma into trace of C and so on. Then trace of A, B, C, D, E, right? If these are all operators multiplied with each other, okay, then this is same as writing, so it will go in cyclic fashion. You can write E, D, C, B, A, okay, and you can write, okay, I think there is something wrong here. This one you'll have to check. Maybe there is something wrong. I'll check and get back to you. But this one you see, so it is going in cyclic fashion. So you have D, E, and then A, B, C. And then you have C, D, E, and then A, B. Okay, so it will keep going in cyclic fashion and all of these are equal to each other. Okay. So basically this is invariant under cyclic permutation. So that's why I think this is wrong. So you can double check this and make sure that you have corrected this part. All right. So this is your homework for you, the first homework. Use the definition of the trace of an operator and show that trace of AB is equal to trace of BA in general. Okay, so you know how the trace of an operator is written. Okay, so using that definition, right, you need to show that trace of AB is equal to trace of BA. So by definition, I mean this is your definition of a trace of an operator, right? Using this definition, you can prove this part. Okay, and then for A and B, find trace of AB. So you need to do the matrix multiplication A into B and then find its trace. Okay, that will be easy. You just have to add up all the diagonal terms after finding the matrix corresponding to the multiplication of A and B. Any questions here? Okay. We will do, I think, more problems tomorrow and then everything will become much clearer. But right now I need to explain to you all the concepts so that tomorrow we can sit and do all the problems. Okay. So here, now we need to look at matrix representation of this kind of an equation, which is a phi is equal to A psi. Okay, so some operator acting on the ket psi gives you another vector psi, right? So A instead of A, so instead of phi, you can replace it by I into phi, and instead of A, you can have I into A into I into the ket psi. Okay, so let's do this on both the sides. So here you have I into phi. So what is I? I is nothing but summation of n phi n ket phi n multiplied with bra phi n. Okay, and this whole thing multiplied with phi. So this is like an operator multiplying with phi. Okay, and here you have again I, A, I. So you have I, A, I, and then multiplied with psi or acting on the ket psi. So phi n into phi, right? This term, this will give you some scalar number. So let's call it Bn because it is for the nth phi. So let's call it Bn. So this is going to give you Bn into phi n, Bn into ket phi n. Now this part, okay, so here again you can take the summations on one side. So you have summation over n, summation over m. Then you have phi n, and then this part, right, phi n, A, phi m, this is again a number. So let's call it A and m. And this is again a number. Let's call it A m. Okay, small a m. So ultimately you're going to get A and m, small a n into phi n. Okay, so this is how you can simplify things. So this is how given a wave vector and given some other basis set, you can always write any vector in terms of the other basis set. Okay, so this is what you are going to get. Okay, so essentially what it means is this Bn, because this phi n and phi n are same, right? This is exactly same, phi n and phi n. So what you are getting is this Bn, the coefficients are equating to each other. So the Bn is equal to A and m, capital A and m into small a m. Okay, which means if you write it down in terms of matrices, what you get? You get B1, B2, B3, this whole thing, the column is equal to the matrix A and m in multiplied with the column vector A1, A2, A3, etc. Okay, so ultimately you're going to get B1 is what? A11 into A1 plus A12 into A2 plus A13 into A3, like that. Okay, so if you write, so B1 is equal to A1m summation over m A1m into am. This is exactly what you're getting here. Okay, so Bn is equal to summation over m Anm am. Okay, so in matrix form, you see now how these summations are written in terms of matrices, right? I think this we have learned in the previous semester, right? How the summations or some equation can be written in terms of matrices. So this is, you just need to go back and refresh that if you have some difficulty in following it. Okay, so basically here the coefficients are being equated. All right. Now let's see matrix representation of this term, right? So this is some kind of a number, right? So this turns out to be some number. So instead of A, we can again put I into A into I. Okay, so remember, whenever you have an operator and you want to change it to some other basis set, you can just replace that operator with I into the operator into I. Okay, and then do the complete computation, and then the computation becomes very easy. You just have to keep a track of the summations, that's all. So if you do this here, phi IAI multiplied with psi, right? If you do this, this is going to be a number, but let's see what this turns out to be. So you have the summations, you can take it outside, right? So you have summation over n into n. Then you have phi, scalar product of phi with phi n. So phi with phi n, let's call it bn star, okay? Then you have phi n a phi n, let's call it a n n. Then you have phi n psi. So let's call it a n, okay? So you are going to get bn star into ANM into AN and summation over n into n. So this is like a full number, right? This is not a matrix. This is a full number, right? Because all of these are going to be added up together. These are summations. Okay, so if you see this, this whole entire matrix multiplication is going to give you a number, right? You'll get, first you will get A11 into A1 plus A12 into A2 plus A13 into A3, etc. That will become your sub individual rows. And then you multiply B1 star with those rows. Finally, you'll get one number, which will be in terms of summations. Okay. So these are like matrix representation of individual quantities, essentially. All right. Yes.
Ma'am, whenever we use this identity
Yeah.
property, so we can use any autonomous basis, or will it have to be somewhat related to the operator?
No, it need not be related to the operator. It can be any basis, any other basis. Okay. So later on, we'll see a problem where there are two different operators. The two operators have its own eigenvalues and eigenvectors, and the eigenvectors of one can be written in terms of the eigenvectors of the other. So that is like the transformation essentially. Okay, so it can be anything, right? But the only point is that it should be complete. Okay, so all these eigenvectors it should be all the eigenvectors of that particular matrix, the phi n's. So let's say phi n's are eigenvectors of some other matrix called B. Okay, so it's eigenvectors of some other operator called B, but they should be all the eigenvectors. So if B is a 3 cross 3 matrix, how many eigenvectors you'll get in general? Suppose B is an operator which is a 3 cross 3 matrix. How many eigenvectors will you get?
3.
3, exactly. So then you will have 3 such phi n's. So n will be from 1 to 3 in general. Okay. This is a formula for in general. That's why n is going from 1 to infinity. But if B is only a 3 cross 3 matrix, then n will go from 1 to 3, and that will complete your that will give you your identity operator. Okay, so that is what I mean by it. So these phi n's, okay, all these phi n's are eigenvectors of a particular operator. Okay. All right. Mm,
Ma'am,
yeah.
also can we convert any kind of operator to the matrix form?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
like
Any operator can be converted, just like we did it here, no? Where did we do it? I think here no, somewhere we did it here. Here we did it, right? This A is converted to matrix form, right? Matrix, as in, this is like the summation form essentially of the matrix, of the basis set. Okay? So
ma'am,
any operator, yeah, tell me.
yeah, ma'am. So for any kind of say any polynomial kind of operator, so
Hmm.
how do we have to choose the basis to convert it into matrix form?
So for polynomial, it will be like it will be slightly different, okay, for polynomial. For example, if something you're getting as sine nx, okay, that is your eigenfunction, okay. If sine nx is your eigenfunction, then sine 1x, sine 2x, sine 3x, all of those become your, first of all, sine nx has to be written in terms of e power, right, e power I nx minus e power minus I nx by 2i. Okay, and then you can convert that into, so your basis set becomes in the form of e power inx basically. And so n can be a quantity that is varying 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Right? Those are discrete numbers. So
In
those
that
become your
case,
basis
those
set.
will be that can be infinite sum, right?
Yes, yes. So that will be, so those become your basis set. So we will see in some problems, okay, maybe tomorrow or tomorrow probably I will do one problem where we will see how this kind of thing is the full basis set. So the basis set is becomes infinite dimensional, okay, in the case of such eigenfunctions where you get sine nx or cos nx or something like that. Okay, so there the basis set becomes infinite because n can go from, n is a discrete number, but then it can go from 1 to infinity, right? So that becomes a infinite thing. But if some matrix is given, right, then you can always convert it into this form, writing it like this. Okay, we'll do one or two problems. Hopefully tomorrow, if not today, we'll do one or two problems and then we'll see how it goes. Any other questions? Okay, let's go back. All right. So this is like a summary of all the matrices we have learned so far. Okay. So a matrix A is real if A is equal to A star, right? Obviously, if all the numbers in the matrix are uh, real, that is, they are not complex, then you call the matrix is real. If even one of the numbers in the matrix, if one of the elements in the matrix is a complex number, then you cannot say that it is a real number. Real. Okay, it is imaginary if A is equal to minus A star. Okay, then it is symmetric if A is equal to A transpose, right? So if A and A transpose both are same, then you say that this matrix is symmetric. It is anti-symmetric if A is equal to minus A transpose. Okay. It is Hermitian. This we already know if A is equal to A dagger. Okay. It is anti-Hermitian if A is equal to minus A dagger. And it is orthogonal if A transpose is equal to A inverse. Okay. This also we learned in the previous semester, if you remember. So A transpose is equal to A inverse when you say it is orthogonal. And it is unitary if A dagger is equal to A inverse. So this is like just like a summary of all the different matrices that we have learned. All right. And these matrices become important when we do quantum mechanics. All right. So the homework for you is using these properties, right? So just write an example of a matrix in terms of numbers or complex numbers or whatever you think, where a matrix is symmetric. Okay, that is first one, and second one, the matrix is imaginary. Okay, so you just need to, construct a matrix. It can be composed of any number. Just construct a matrix which is symmetric, and then the second problem is construct a matrix which is imaginary. Okay, and this table will help you do that, right? Okay. So now let's see. So now we are going to change a basis and unitary transformation. Okay. So let phi n and phi n dash, right, be two different basis sets. Okay. So if they are two different basis sets, it means they are basis sets of two different operators. Okay. Then this phi n, individual phi n, can be represented in terms of the other basis set. Okay. What is the other basis set? It is phi. I mean, here it is phi n, but you can always change. This is just a dummy index, right? So you can always change it to phi n. But the point is that this dash is the denotion. Like if we denote the vector with a dash, it means it's a different way. It's a different vector. Okay. So what we are doing, we are multiplying it with I. Okay, if you multiply it with I, you will then multiply it with sigma summation over m, phi m dash. So the ket phi m ket phi m dash multiplied with the bra phi m dash. Okay, and then when you do this, this phi m dash phi n will give you some number which will be umn, okay, and this will give you phi m dash. Okay, so remember this phi n. Okay, the ket phi n can always be written in terms of the other basis set. So any current basis set can be written in terms of any other basis set using this formula. Okay, where umn is given by the scalar product of phi m dash with phi n. So what is U essentially? So if you look at the full matrix U, right, it will be individual terms. So you will have scalar product of phi 1 dash with phi n, phi 1, scalar product of phi 1 dash with phi 2 and so on, and this entire matrix. So this is called your unitary matrix. Okay. So using this unitary matrix, what we can do, we can transform one basis set to another basis set. Okay, so we can transform one set of eigenvectors to something else using the other eigenvectors. Okay, so one basis set is transformed using some other basis set. Okay, so each phi n here gets represented in terms of the other basis set. Okay, so it will be some summation over the full basis set of the other basis set. All right. So this formula is again important. Maybe we'll do a problem about it tomorrow. Okay, so if I ask you to convert one set of eigenvectors, okay, you into new eigenvectors which has some other basis set, then this is the formula that you are going to use. Okay, these are your individual elements umn, and this is your individual eigenvector. Okay. So similarly, we can do transformation of ket, bra, and operator. So we can transform the ket psi in a new basis phi n dash. So how will we do that? So we just multiply everything with phi m, right? So phi m dash psi. Then this is same as putting an I in between. Okay. So I is something that you can put anywhere. Okay. Anywhere meaning it has to be next to a next to a vertical line, but that is the only rule. You can put it anywhere next to a vertical line. So here in between here you can put it. Okay, so if you put it here, then again this summation you can take it to the other side. So phi n scalar product of phi m dash phi n gives you umn, and this becomes phi n psi. So this thing can be represented as this summation. Okay, so if you just put I anywhere where you have this vertical line, then you can derive any of these relations. It is that simple. Like you don't even have to memorize it, or you don't have to think so much about it. Just put I wherever you have the vertical line, and then carry out the individual summation. Then that's it. We're done. Okay, so the new psi, right? The new psi is basically the unitary matrix multiplied with the old ket psi, and the new bra psi is basically the bra psi multiplied with the dagger of the unitary matrix. Okay, so the new A operator is U into A into the old A operator into U dagger, and U is so these things, right? These transformations are known as the unitary transformations. Okay. All right.
Ma'am, hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
After this unitary transformation, do these the matrix which is forming after this transformation, do they follow the same rule that we have seen before, like the transpose ones, like you
Exactly.
show? Or
Same rules. Nothing changes. No. Since
okay, so
they are
what
still
is
matrices. Yeah. Yeah.
but as we know in the vectors, if you multiply with the unit vector, then it become unit if you multiply any of the vector, a simple vector with another unit vector, so the multiplication follows certain kind of rules. But here in this kind of matrix set, why there is after the multiplication there is some different rules rather than the vectors?
So vector, one thing is
No, you tell this like the for the first even psi of nu, Kate psi of nu, that example, yeah.
This
So,
one, yeah.
so there is a forming in between, like, it is for given by the I in between, that is.
So one thing you have
and then
to,
you,
okay, this is like a scalar product. Okay, so obviously this will give a number. It is not going to give you a matrix, right? So this quantity,
okay,
if you
okay,
just
okay, okay.
right,
I thought it is a vector. Okay, okay. It's
huh,
scalar. Okay, it's okay now.
this always remember when the two angular brackets are closed, it is a number. It is a scalar. It's a scalar product. So it's a number. Okay. And so if this is a number, then this is like a summation. So this is a number and this is a number. You're just multiplying the two and you're summing it. So it is going to give you a number. It is not a matrix. Understand?
Okay, ma'am. I thought it is a matrix. Okay.
Yeah. No, this one is not a matrix. Okay. So you have to, so this is like one of the things, just looking at it, you can remember. If this part was not there, if phi m, this bra was not there, this phi m dash bra was not there, it is just a psi, then this is a vector. Okay. If it is a scalar product, phi m dash and psi, if this is the full scalar product, then this is a number. Okay. And if it is something like this, where a ket is multiplied with a bra, then it gives you an operator, because then it becomes a square matrix. And so it will give you an operator. Okay. So those are the like 2-3 different things. If you remember, that is like you will understand most of the calculations. Okay. All right. So whenever you forget or you're getting confused, always start with the basic thing that a ket is a column vector, a bra is a row vector, and then that will solve your problems. Then you just do the matrix multiplication, just take a simple example, do the matrix multiplication, and you'll see that you get if you're getting a number, it means it's a scalar product. If you're getting a matrix, it means it's a operator. And that will like solve your confusion, basically. Okay. So now we come to again, eigenvalue problems. So let's see what we are talking about here. Yeah, this I think we've already told you. I've already told you. So if A is so of course this is, any eigenvalue, eigenvector problem is represented in this fashion, where you have an operator A acting on a ket psi, and this gives you some eigenvalue. Eigenvalue is always a number. Okay, it can be a complex number, it can be a scalar, a real number, whatever, but it is a number. Okay, so that is the eigenvalue. And again, it gives you back the ket psi or the wave vector. Okay, so this is how an eigenvalue, eigenvector problem is represented. Okay, so if you solve this problem, then you're going to get all the eigenvalues and you're going to get all the eigenvectors. Okay, so if using for the operator A, you can compute what the eigenvalues are and what the eigenvectors. Now the next step is, if A is a Hermitian operator, okay, if A is a Hermitian operator, then I have told you already that all the eigenvalues will be real. Okay, they will be real. And why they are real? Because most of the physically measurable operators or quantities, okay, most of the physical, like not most, all of the physically measurable quantities are going to be real, right? Otherwise we cannot measure them. If you want to measure energy, it has to be a real number. Otherwise, I mean, there's nothing like complex energy, right? It is always a real number. So because energy or quantities like these are real numbers, so the operators corresponding to them is a Hermitian operator. So the operator corresponding to energy is a Hamiltonian. It's called a Hamiltonian, and Hamiltonian is a Hermitian operator. Okay, so this is something you need to remember. So Hermitian operator will always give you real eigenvalues, and plus the eigenvectors of that operator will be orthogonal to each other. Okay, that is also another thing that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so now maybe I'll just finish a little bit more and then we will stop. So, okay, so far we have seen representation in terms of matrices, like in terms of discrete set. Okay, but we can also have like continuous operators, and so we also need to know what is a continuous basis. Okay, so if two state vectors are orthonormal, okay, suppose two state vectors are orthonormal, in the discrete state, in the discrete space, you represent it by delta function, which is, Dirac, Kronecker delta, right, which is delta nm. Okay, but in the continuous space, you have to represent it in this manner, delta of k minus k dash. Okay, so this is called a Dirac delta function. And when k is equal to k dash, then the value is infinity, but otherwise it is 0. So again, you can see when k is different from k dash, then these wave vectors will be orthogonal. If they are orthonormal wave vectors, then this is how you're going to represent. So delta nm is in the discrete space, but in the continuous space, it becomes the Dirac delta function, which is delta of k minus k dash. Okay. And again, in the discrete space, you had summation, right? Summation n equal to 1 to infinity. But in the continuous space, you have integration. Okay, always remember when you go from discrete space to continuous space, summation becomes integration, and your Kronecker delta becomes your Dirac delta function. That is the only difference. So here, if you represent psi, right, the ket psi, it is same as writing the identity operator into psi. Okay, so then if you do this, this is the identity operator multiplied with the ket psi. So this becomes some function b of k, which is like a number. Okay, so this is a function b of k, and then you integrate it over all dk. So you have integration over all dk going from minus infinity to infinity for b of k into ket chi of k. Okay, so this becomes your state vector in the continuous space. Okay, so these are some examples of your continuous space state vectors, or continuous space operators. Okay, so this is the momentum operator, and momentum operator is given by minus I h cross del. Okay, and what is the del operator? Del operator is dou by dou x plus dou by dou y plus dou by dou z. So px is minus I h cross dou by dou x, py is minus I h cross dou by dou y, and pz is minus I h cross dou by dou z. Okay, and this I told you was the Hamiltonian operator. I talked about it just now. So Hamiltonian operator is given by the momentum operator square by 2m plus v. So this is your kinetic energy plus potential energy. Okay, that is your Hamiltonian operator. So what is p square? The momentum square would be, this is nothing but p dot p. Okay, so it will be minus h cross square by 2m del square plus v of r. So this del square we already have studied in the previous semester. It is nothing but the Laplacian operator, right? So you're going to get minus h cross square by 2m into dou square by dou x square plus dou square by dou y square plus dou square by dou z square plus the potential energy. Okay, so if you write like I told you how the eigenvalue eigenvector equation is written, right? So you have the operator h, the Hamiltonian operator acting on the wave function psi. It gives you E into psi. So E is your eigenvalue. This is the energy. Okay, and this is your wave function. Psi of x is your wave function. H is your Hamiltonian, which is the operator. Okay, so this is again, if you want to solve this, will be solved using the known methods for eigenvalue eigenvector problems. Okay, so same way. All right, so here is one homework, and then I will stop here. So consider a one-dimensional particle, okay, which moves along the x-axis and whose Hamiltonian is given by this term. Okay, so this is your operator, where epsilon is a real constant having the dimensions of energy. Okay, so psi of x, let's say psi of x is given by a into e power minus 2x square, where a is a normalization constant. So you need to find the normalization constant. You know how to do this, right? You need to integrate psi square of x dx, right? That is how you find, right? If you do that, you should get 1, and then you will get a square is equal to something, and so you'll get a. Okay, so first of all, you need to find this normalization constant that needs to be found, an eigenfunction of h. And then you need to see whether this psi of x is an eigenfunction of h. Okay, So how will you check if something is an eigenfunction of the operator? You will do h into, right, the operator acting on psi of x should give you some number into psi of x, some number or some, right, something that is not an operator, right? That is what it should give you. So that is how you will check whether psi of x is a eigenfunction of the Hamiltonian operator. Okay. So if it is an operator, if it is a, eigenfunction of h, then find the energy value. Okay. The next question is calculate the probability of finding the particle anywhere along the negative axis. Okay. So using this wave function formula, psi of x is equal to a into e power minus 2x square. Using this wave function, you need to find out the probability that it is between minus infinity and 0. That is what it means, right? Find the probability, calculate the probability of finding the particle anywhere along the negative x-axis. Also remember, probability can never be more than 1, right? So if you are getting some answer where you are getting the probability to be more than 1, please know that that answer is wrong, okay? Because that obviously probability can never be more than 1. So always make sure that your probability is less than 1, okay? If it is more than 1, that means you have done some wrong calculation, okay? All right, then the next question is find the energy eigenvalue corresponding to the wave function. Okay, so this is a new wave function. So you have to apply the same Hamiltonian here and find the energy value. Okay, then specify the parities of phi of x and psi of x. So basically they want you to state whether phi of x and psi of x are the even functions or odd functions. Okay, that's it. So I'll stop here and we will continue tomorrow.